I don't believe men were created to be pawns in someone else's game. I believe we were created to be steward kings. Men under authority, yes, but entrusted with real responsibility. Not perfect men, but disciplined ones. Men who rule themselves, serve God directly, and refuse to live in fear. This is king, not pawn. Most men, they've heard the story of the prodigal son, and it's usually taught one way. A rebellious son leaves, wastes everything, hits rock bottom, and comes home, and the father welcomes him. End of story. But that's not the full story, because there wasn't just one son in that parable. There were two. And most men, they only see one of them. Let's talk about the first one real quick, the one who left. He was the younger son who asks for his inheritance early, which in that culture is essentially saying, I'd rather have your stuff than a relationship with you. And the father lets him go. No questions asked, no control, no force, just release, and the son leaves. And this is where I want to go ahead and talk to you about this illusion of freedom, okay? Because at first, it probably felt like freedom. No authority, no structure, no restraint, money in his pocket, choices everywhere, living how he wanted. But eventually, the money runs out, the environment changes, the people around him disappear, and what looked like freedom becomes emptiness. And this is the moment where everything shifts, because there's a line in the story here that really does matter. He came to himself. That's the turning point. Not when he lost everything, not when things got hard, but when he saw clearly. And he says something interesting after that. He says, I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired servants. See, that's humility, but it is incomplete. He comes back, but he thinks he's a servant. He returns home prepared to earn his way back, prepared to work for position, and to basically live as less than what he once was. But the father, he doesn't negotiate with him. He just restores him fully, And let's talk about the father's response for a second, because before the son can even finish his speech, the father runs out to him, restores his robe, his ring, his place, not as a servant, but as a son. Because in the father's eyes, he never stopped being one. Let's talk about the first mistake here, earning what was already given. See, the younger son, he thought his failure changed his identity. He thought he had to earn back what was already his. And many men live like that. They fall short, they drift, they make mistakes. And instead of returning fully, they just come back halfway, still thinking like servants, trying to earn what God had already offered freely. Now, there is another son in the story, and this is where most people stop paying attention, because the second son, he didn't leave, he stayed. He worked alongside of his father, he obeyed, he followed the rules, and from the outside, he actually looks like the good son, right? Let's talk about another story for a second. The man who has done everything right. He shows up, he does what's expected, follows the structure, never strays, but internally something is off. And it's not rebellion, it's something, far worse. Resentment. So let's look at the older brother's response here in the story, because when the younger brother returns and is celebrated, the older brother is angry. He's not confused, he's literally angry. And listen to what he says here. All these years I served you, and you never gave me anything. Notice that word choice, served. That's the word he uses. Not loved, not belonged, served. So this is the second mistake I want to go over. Living like a slave. See, the older brother, he never left physically, but mentally, he wasn't living as a son. He was living as a servant. He was keeping score, tracking effort, measuring reward. I did this, so I deserve that. That's not sonship. That is transaction. So, what was the father's response to him? The father says, Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. He didn't lack anything, okay? He just didn't see it. There were two sons, both had the same problem. Now look at both of them, okay? The younger son, he ran away, and he thought he had to earn his way back. The older son, he stayed, and he thought he had to earn his place. Different paths, same misunderstanding. Neither fully understood what it really meant to be a son. So here's the deeper lesson here. This isn't just a story about rebellion, it is a story about identity. Some men run, some men stay. Both can equally miss the point because sonship is not earned and it's also not lost through failure. It's something you either understand or you don't. So, look, this is something you see everywhere today. One man lives recklessly, then comes back, but still carries shame, still thinks he has to prove himself. Another man, he could seemingly be doing everything right on paper, but he becomes rigid, resentful, prideful, still trying to earn something he already has. Different lives, but the same posture. So, what does this mean for you? Well, if you've drifted, I'm begging you to return fully, not halfway, okay? Not as a servant, but as a son. And if you've stayed, check your posture. Are you walking in relationship, or are you keeping score with those around you? Because obedience without relationship, it becomes burden. See, the father in the story, he doesn't reject either son. He invites them both. One back into the house, the other back into celebration. Both needed the same thing, to simply understand who they were. Okay? There are not just rebellious sons. Okay? There are obedient sons who think like slaves. Do not run from God and think you have to earn your way back. Okay? And do not stay near to God while living like you have to earn your place. You are not a servant trying to qualify. You are a son learning to walk in what's already been given to you. And the moment you understand that, everything changes.